everyone, Shanna here, welcoming you to another episode of Worthy Asian, a safe space to talk about generational trauma, Asian parenting styles, and finding our way to healing and knowing our worth. This week, I want to talk about some cultural differences I noticed since marrying a white guy. And you might notice I sound a little different because I'm under the weather. But the show must go on, so I hope you don't mind a little raspiness this episode. First things first, I asked my husband if he preferred being called white or Caucasian, and he said white, so I'm going with that. I have to say that I don't personally have too much experience with feeling the pressure to find an Asian partner, because my parents didn't really seem to mind who I dated. Because I shouldn't have been dating at all. I hid my relationship with my husband for 6 months before I told my parents. In fairness, we were in high school, so more necessary for me than if I had been an adult. It definitely helped that they had heard about him and met him before from us being friends first, and from school projects that we did together and whatnot. When I finally told my parents, we had to arrange a family meal so our parents could meet before I could have their official blessing. We all went to dim sum, and the rest is history. My husband grew up very different from me, a lot because of cultural differences, but also because his family was, quote-unquote, more stable, as his parents were partners who ultimately cared about each other and their children, had quote-unquote healthier relationships. They were also stable financially, and my husband gained a lot of experience from traveling a lot and living in different places in his childhood. He also had a lot more freedom, more choices and opportunity, participated in sports and activities that he really enjoyed. And of course, I'm not saying his life or his parents were better, but it was definitely different. And I'm also not saying that he didn't have his fair share of childhood problems, or that his parents were perfect, because there's no such thing. It was just different. And this different lifestyle and perspective that he has brought into my life has helped change and shape me a lot as well, as I think is natural when you come together and you grow and change together with a partner. I always thought I'd end up with an Asian guy though, and I wonder sometimes if that had been the case, what would my life look like now? If I had married someone similar to me, who had similar childhood experiences, how different would I and my life be? Would I have been more stuck in my trauma? I mean, I know that is a rhetorical question. There is no way to know. And I don't want to say that, oh, you shouldn't marry an Asian person because they're traumatized too. That's not fair. Everyone has their own trauma, and there's something to be said about finding someone who really understands what you went through. My husband understands, but he doesn't truly get it, you know? You just need to find a partner that is truly your partner. Someone who's got your back, who can be strong when you cannot, and vice versa. Sees and understands your flaws and loves you anyway. Because I do know that the support and strength my husband gives me through knowing what unconditional love is, his ability to not fall into the same negative loops that I do, and his ability to be my calm in the storm and the voice of reason, has truly helped me. And I could not do any of this without him. And so I just wonder, if I married someone with similar baggage as me, would we have been able to help each other in the same way? Or would we get stuck maybe in the same way? I can understand the pressure of family wanting their kids to marry someone of their same culture, to keep traditions, customs, the language alive. I feel that pressure knowing full well I'm not even fluent in Cantonese. I don't know much about my own traditions or cook traditional food. And now that I've married a white guy, I feel like I'm the end of the line for my Asianness. And I feel a lot of guilt about this. But truthfully, even if I did marry an Asian guy, I really couldn't guarantee that he would have been Chinese or Cantonese. A lot of the Asian guys I was interested back in the day were not. So my plight would have then been the pressure of feeling like I needed to learn another Asian language or another Asian custom. Let's get back to talking about differences. So right off the bat, it's the communication for me. I felt like I went from negative 100 to 1,000 when I married into his family. I went from barely talking to my parents besides the superficial, how are you, how's the weather, silent meals, staring at the food or the TV, no direct eye contact, no physical touch, no jokes, smiles, laughter, or fun, no reactions to gifts or announcements, no loudness unless you were being scolded. I went from that to like full on 100 questions about my day, hugs upon greeting and departing, and to me, it felt like intense eye contact. There was loud sharing of jokes and stories, game nights, big reactions, and personalized thank you cards in the mail, big celebrations for birthdays and holidays, frequent family gatherings and phone calls, and hearing I love you every time we see each other or talk on the phone. And as much as it was wonderful to know that these kind of relationships with family exist and that they're out there and people have them, and that I could now be a part of it, it frankly was a shock to my system. And it can still be, actually, because it's a huge difference. Like, whoa, what is this? A lot of it felt great, of course, like, wow, there is so much joy and love here. But a lot of it was also just too much for me to handle, especially all at once. And the I love you part, I think that's probably the hardest. It gets me every time. I have no problem saying it to my husband or my daughter, but I have never said it to my parent-in-laws or my sister-in-law. I just can't. I feel bad because they say it to me, but how can I say it to them when I don't even say it to my own parents? It makes me feel so uncomfortable. I'm sure they've noticed, but they haven't said anything about it. And I get off the hook most of the time because my husband is usually with me when they say it. So he'll say it back for us. And I've noticed throughout the years, especially now that I have drawn clear boundaries with my parents, that I have also put a little bit of distance between me and them. And don't get me wrong, I feel the love for them and from them, but I get overstimulated. And I get exhausted and I get confused because I feel a lot of shame and guilt and pain for experiencing so much with them when I do so little with my parents. And of course, it feels nice to feel love from your in-laws. But when you get a taste of this like parental love, you're just like, damn, I want this from my own parents. And obviously, how my husband and I were raised has affected how we parent, but for me, in some surprising ways. If you ask any of my friends, they would probably say I'm a perfectionist, I like things a certain way, I plan every detail, I have high expectations. I remember on my wedding day, my wedding party were a little late due to traffic for hair and makeup. And they each individually called me, and I could hear the panic in their voice, even though they were trying to be calm. And they were calling me to reassure me that everything would be all right, and telling me to stay calm. I honestly was so chill, which I think scared them even more. Like, this is a trap. But This was a little light bulb moment for me, that I was so known to be this certain way that all my close friends were so concerned when they called me. And this day is supposed to be, about celebration, about love and happiness. And I was making my friends so nervous. Anyway, I share this because I think most people who know me, and myself included, would expect my parenting to be similar, aka tiger parenting, overbearing and perfect. And though I still have elements of this perfectionism that I struggle with, I'd actually say I'm way more chill than I thought I'd be. Which is somewhat to my husband's dismay, because he's jokingly taken up the role as tiger dad because he is way more worried about things than I am most of the time. Like, for example, when I was first pregnant, I thought I'd be that mom who read every book and every research article or blog to ensure I was doing only the best things for my baby. But I did not read a thing, not a single thing, unless it was forwarded to me from my husband, who was doing all the reading. He is an engineer, so he has a very organized, logical mind, and also very safety oriented. So this guy who tells me about how at like 8 years old, he and his sister were allowed to roam the streets of Tokyo, Japan by themselves with no cell phone back in the day, is the one who will not let our daughter out of his sight. It's just kind of comical, really. He's also the one who can't seem to handle when my daughter mixes the Play-Doh colors all together. My husband has expressed concern before that because I'm so worried about not becoming like my parents, that I would go too extreme into chill mode. And so he's kind of felt this need to up his tiredness. I don't necessarily agree. I just know that I need to pick my battles, because I'm going to have way more triggers than him due to my own childhood. And I know I have acted on these triggers in the past poorly towards my daughter. And going to therapy has really helped me learn how to pause most of the time, to ask myself, is this really important? Do I really need to fight about what is happening? How would I feel if someone reacted to me this way? And so maybe I make a suggestion to keep some of the Play-Doh colors separate and only mix up some. But for the most part, I let my daughter play how she wants because it really doesn't matter. And I gotta save my energy for other struggles that will take more out of me. Like when she whines that her banana was sliced instead of whole, or she's refusing to put any clothes on because one specific sock is missing. I also know my personality can easily fall down the rabbit hole and get overwhelmed and consumed if I let myself research all the best practices of being a good parent. And ultimately, I knew I would just second guess everything and feel terrible. I always thought I'd be a fun mom, but I quickly realized that I am not. I don't know how to play with my daughter. It's better now that she can talk and we can interact in a different way. But before, it was extremely uncomfortable for me to just sit with her and play. I always felt like I needed to do something else, be somewhere else. I had to resist the urge to just watch TV or be on my phone to self-soothe. I couldn't just sit there and be present. And I hated that so much because I obviously wanted to be there. I wanted to have fun with my daughter. I wanted to engage, but I didn't know how. And then going on social media and seeing how parents were making their own DIY games and crafts with their kids and teaching them numbers and letters and all this creative sensory play, and holy, I'm a bad parent. And then, of course, seeing my husband when he's done work and he just plays so easily and happily with my daughter. I see how her face lights up with joy, how she loves playing with him, and eagerly awaits his return. My parents never played with me or interacted with me. I never learned these skills. And you think, oh, play. Play is so easy. Like, you don't need to learn how to play. But you do. You really do. I would just sit there blankly, panicking about what to say or do. I could only play when there was a clear objective or task. Like if I bought a craft kit and it told me all the steps and I followed them with my daughter. Or if we're playing a game and there are clear rules to follow. If it's just free play, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be creative or spontaneous. And this is where my husband seems to excel, and I'm so grateful for it. And my husband has very enthusiastic and engaging parents, and I see how they interact with Avery, so I know that they interacted with him in the same way, and perhaps he's able to reflect these skills and behaviors from his parents. My husband also has a lot of experience with playing with other kids because he has a sister, because he went to summer camps a lot, because their family had huge circles of friends with kids who played together, etc. And this was very different from my childhood. I was an only child. I didn't have great friends until I was a teenager. I got bullied a lot at school. And my parents' friends who had kids, they all bullied me too. And so I just always played alone. I read a post the other day that said, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm actually an introvert or if I've actually just had all my personality, enthusiasm, and self-esteem traumatized and embarrassed out of me as a child, and was denied all emotional intelligence, communication skills, and boundaries. And I was like, I really wonder what I'd be like if I had a different upbringing. Would I still be an introvert? I'm really reserved and quiet in unfamiliar settings with unfamiliar people. But when I'm with my core people, I can get pretty loud and wild. And that feels the most me. I'm just not that person all the time, and not a lot of people get to see her. This girl who is confident, fun, comfortable, and free. I rely on my husband a lot to do simple daily things that are seemingly so easy, but I can't do because it makes me feel uncomfortable. Like talk on the phone to handle affairs like appointments, bills, etc. Or be the point person if something is wrong with the house that needs fixing. Because I never ask questions, I never ensure that we get what we need because I don't know how. My fear of not asking the right questions or not wanting to be a bother really gets in the way of me being efficient in these situations. We laugh and joke about it being his white privilege and his need to speak to the manager. But really, I know that I just envy this natural ease, this natural confidence to just simply exist, expect and get what you need, and not be afraid to take up space. A lot of people may see this as a good opportunity for me to grow, to push myself out of my comfort zone, and to learn to do these things that make me feel uncomfortable. I agree to an extent, and I have made improvements. I can do these things when I really have to, like if I'm alone or if it's for my daughter. But there is just so much comfort and warmth in knowing and feeling that someone can and will do these things for me, like no one has before, because they love me and understand me and want the best for me. And I think that's okay too, to allow myself to be taken care of in this way. I'm not really sure what the point of this episode was. I guess just to discuss ways I have grown and thought about things differently since having the opportunity to be a part of and experience a world and life with people who are very different from me and my family. When we are so used to a certain way of living, it can be hard to open ourselves up to meeting new and different people and experiences. If you're needing a breath of fresh air, then maybe it's time to try something new and take some risks in making connections with people you normally wouldn't. Of course, it's not without risk. Not everyone new that you meet is actually going to fit with you and your vibe. But there are lessons there too. In learning to notice which people may or may not bring joy to your life, learning what is your vibe really, what kind of people are you looking to add, what new things are you wanting to experience, and learning how to navigate boundaries and communications with people who you know don't bring in what you need. I'm really curious to hear your stories. What other things have you learned from your relationships with others, whether they are Asian or not? Any aha moments, any highlights? I'd love to hear it, and I hope you'll share with me. As always, thank you for sharing your time with me. I would love to connect with you on Instagram at worthyasianpodcast to hear any questions, ideas, or stories you have. And if you'd like a space to be able to share, receive, or give support, please join and help build our community in the Worthy Asian Facebook group. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe, share, or leave a review so more people can find us. I'll be back in 2 Mondays. So until then, take care, talk soon, and much love from a fellow Worthy Asian.